Okay, so now we move on to a follow-up video Matthew did a few weeks ago. Somebody emailed him about the review saying this: "The reason Biff wants to marry Lorraine isn't because he's in love with her, it's so he can have her all to himself." And Matthew responds to this by saying, "Since when did he want Lorraine all to himself? That was never established in the first movie. It never struck me that Biff was interested in specifically Lorraine." Well, I have to disagree with that. It seemed quite clear to me that Biff wanted Lorraine, and only Lorraine. He harasses her constantly in spite of her complete and utter rejection. We never see him attempting to harass any other women during the first or the second film. And even 30 years later, when he sees Marty at the beginning of the first film, he asks her to say hi to her for him. Why would he do that unless he had some sort of feelings for her? It's her because she is the ultimate prize, the best girl, the only girl good enough for him. It's actually very similar to Gaston's feelings for Belle in Beauty and the Beast. In spite of the fact that he has a number of other girls going after him, he's always going after Belle because no other girl is good enough for him. And continuing with Matthew's comments, in the second film, Lorraine is more annoyed by Biff than threatened. Well, I agree with that, but when was she ever threatened in the first film? She tells Biff she's not that kind of girl, she slaps him, she tells Biff to leave George alone, and she tells him that he's drunk. The only time she really looks scared or threatened by him is when he's raping her, and, well, that's just common sense. Okay, and finishing up Matthew's comment, he says this: "Biff doesn't sound like he wants to own Lorraine when he says, 'You're my girl,' and 'It's you and me, Lorraine, it's meant to be.' It sounds to me more like he wants a relationship." Well, it maybe does sound like he wants a relationship in terms of what he says, but the way he says it is definitely threatening, if you ask me. He flat out tells her, "You're my girl," and "You're going to the dance with me." That really does sound like he wants to own her. It's possible that Biff just thinks that saying this kind of stuff is the kind of stuff you're supposed to say to girls if you want to get them to like you. He really just doesn't understand that the way you say these things and the way that you treat them generally is more important. He really does want some kind of relationship so that he can ultimately marry her, but the only reason he wants that relationship is so that he can have her. It's also a bit unfair to draw any kind of major conclusion about the way Biff feels about Lorraine in the first film based on only 2 scenes, especially since he's drunk in one of them. The thing that stands out to me more than anything else is the fact that we never see him harassing any other girls during the film. That says to me quite clearly that he only wants Lorraine. Anyway, that's all I've got to say about Matthew's review of Back to the Future Part 2. But I just have one last thing to ask. I really am puzzled by why Matthew doesn't like this film and why he would decide to give such a negative review of it. So I wonder, do you think Darth Vader came down from the planet Vulcan and told Matthew that if he didn't give Back to the Future Part 2 a bad review, he'd melt his brain? I mean, hello? Hello? Anybody home? Think, Matthew. Think. Back to the Future Part 2 is a great film. One of the better sequels I've ever seen. Okay. See ya. Okay, one more thing. Matthew mentions that he thinks Buford Tannen from Back to the Future Part 3 is a completely different character from Biff. That's just simply not true. Buford Tannen is the 1885 equivalent of Biff. In a sense, he is Biff. Why else would Zemeckis Kangel cast Thomas Wilson in the role? The only time you are likely to ever see an actor play more than one role in a film is if you want to give the impression that they are the same person in some kind of way. Here's another example. In the opening scene of The Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King, Andy Serkis, the actor who provided the voice and some of the motion capture for Gollum, is cast as Smeagol. Why? Because Smeagol is Gollum. Peter Jackson is attempting to enhance the idea that Gollum and Smeagol are in fact the same person. They may possess different personalities, but they are in essence the same person. And the only way you can properly achieve this is by having the same actor play them. Likewise, Buford Tannen and Biff are both played by Thomas Wilson to better enhance the idea that they are in fact the same. Okay, I'm definitely done now.